I'm an Armenian, and I'm a member of the parliament, and I'm one of the founders of my party, which I'm proud of, HDP. We are all the identities parties. But we have to start from 100 years ago, maybe, to understand what is going on now. Armenians used to be 20% of the population of Turkey's territory. Now we are less than 0.1%. We lived the genocide, we suffered the genocide. And I was born in a house, there was my grandmother, suffered the genocide, having no relatives at all. She was alone. She passed away without living the justice. And as we can all understand, unpunished crimes lead to new crimes. So we suffered that. We, the Armenians, were asking, starting from the 19th century, asking for local democracy. Because in Anatolia, there are different realities. In the Black Sea region, in the, let's say, Southeast, West, everywhere there are different realities. As you, the Americans or the Europeans can easily understand the local democracy. We were giving that struggle, that democratic struggle, autonomy system we were asking for. And in 1915, in the genocide, the response was very harsh. We led the genocide, blaming us as terrorists, betrayers. Only maybe 1% of the Armenians gave that struggle, but 100% of them were punished. We did the genocide, and this, unfortunately, as I said, unpunished crimes are leading to new crimes. The demand was decentralization. But after the genocide, we have a very centralized Turkey. We established Turkey in a very centralized ideology. Then, for 100 years, we are living the power struggles. That is it. Whoever gets the power at Ankara, it is the Sultan. Now, Tayyip Erdogan he is the Sultan, he is ruling the country. But as we saw 2 months ago, he was about to fall. He was about to be another power struggle. So, centralization and decentralization is the question. We had another coup. There is a coup tradition in Turkey. In every year, we have a coup or coup attempt. So, after 1980, let's say, shortly speaking, two sociologies were trying to get to Ankara, get to share the power. Two sociologies. The first one was the conservatives, the Gulenist movement or AKP movement, whatever you say. And in the 90s, we lived coups as well. Because the Erbakan government was trying to get the power in Ankara, the response was harsh again from the old status quo. And we led the coup. And afterwards, we have AKP and Tayyip Erdogan and his friends, which we called the Democrat Muslims, let's say. They were asking Ankara to change. They were asking local democracy. They were offering democracy for everybody, he and his friends. But the more he got power, he got rid of his friends, and there was only Tayyip Erdogan. There were several corruptions that Gülenists showed us, and afterwards he just finished the coalition with the Gülenists. Now he has a new coalition, getting rid of the liberals, Democrats. He has a new coalition with the old status quo, which doesn't want any change. And responding all the demands coming from the sociologies just in a very harsh way, blaming them as terrorists and just putting them in the prison, shutting down the televisions that they shut down yesterday, 15 televisions that the opposition camp had. So we are living very dark days. I want to tell about my party a little bit, if you don't mind. We established our party because there was a pro-Kurdish party, which was BDP. They shut down so many pro-Kurdish parties. We, the Democrats of the Armenians, Kurds, Turks, and all the identities came together, established a party. The main word is the equality. And we are a pro-gender party. We are a gender equality party. In all of our committees, at least it has to be female. At least 50% has to be female. And we are a pro-Labour party, and we believe in, we are a pro, of course, local autonomy's democratic system party. So those were our demands. Those are romantic demands, as you can understand. But, you know, we are after the coup, and after the coup, we are all out of this position, blaming us as supporting the terrorists. So how did we come to this position? Gülenists didn't want the, supported the status quo and didn't want to change didn't want the peace process about the Turkish issue. And they manipulated several times the peace process, we can say, starting from the Oslo process, and several things happened about the Kurdish conflict. But we were trying to push for the peace process because we, the Armenians, and all the Democrats were taking the advantage of the peace process. There was a democratization. But as I said, after that corruption cases were shown from this saying, coming from the Gülenists, Erdogan just made a coalition with the old status quo, which doesn't want to change. So that was the coup. That was the coup cloud when came over us, another that dark cloud. So 100 years ago, it was the Armenians suffering. And the same ideology, that centralized, cruel, having no conscience, no ideologies over the Kurds and all the Democrats and all the leftists, or whatever you can say over that. Erdogan is blaming everybody who resists against him, and that ideology is as a terrorist. And he says, till the last terrorist dies, I'm going to go with this war. Every day, averagely 30 or 40 people are dying. And when we calculate those terrorists, it makes about 30 or 40 million people. So he says, I'm going to go for it. So whatever is left from a democracy, let me tell about what is going on in Turkey. He appointed governors instead of chosen mayors. And he said he is going to go on. And he lifted the immunities of almost all the HDP deputies. This is the new Turkey that he is saying. And after the coup, we are living very dark days. So, as I said, 100 years ago, it was the Armenians. That crime was unpunished. Now it is the Kurds again. I have to stop that here, I guess.
Garo, but what is your party's strategy? I mean, you've been, the ruling party has been trying to marginalize the HDP for some time now, and you've been excluded from the national unity efforts in the aftermath of the coup. So, what is your party's strategy to not just to survive, but to revive the peace process?
So, Erdogan is a radical Islamist, as we can understand, because he wanted to be leader of the Sunni world. And Ahmet Davutoğlu, our former prime minister, convinced him that you can be the leader of the Sunni world. So he was to he was friends with the Muslim brothers in Egypt, and he wanted to be leader of the Sunni world in Syria as well. He supported the jihadists there against the regime and against the Kurds as well, of course. But that policy has failed. So Ahmet Davutoğlu is out, and Binali Yıldırım is in. So, but that card has failed. So he has another card, which he believes in, is nationalism. He's a nationalist Turk. So after the coup, what he is offering is to unite the Turkish nationalists. Unfortunately, other two parties, CHP and MHP, is just saying okay to this policy. So only HDP also is out. HDP is trying to be the old identities parties, but we are out. So, and Kurds are suffering. In my party, whoever suffers, we are more that. I am more Kurdish nowadays. Whenever I suffer as an Armenian, just about my identity, everybody in my party is an Armenian. So we are more Kurd today. That is what the system, that status quo, or the Tayyip Erdogan takes advantage of it. Because majority is the Turk, and he calls this war as an independence war. Against who? Against the Kurds. He says, I'm fighting against ISIS. He sent the army to the Syria. No, he's not fighting against ISIS. He just wants the Kurds and all the non-Syrian democratic forces to not get the power. So, as I said, it is the fight against the Kurds. Like Turkey gave that independence war, calling against the Armenians, the Greeks, the Jews, and the Assyrians.
And you think the imprisoned leader of the PKK, Abdullah Öcalan, can he play a role? Does he have?
We haven't heard almost, it has been 2 years almost that we haven't heard from him. 2 weeks ago, his brother to go to the island after a hunger strike. So he just said this is a blind war. We have to go back to the negotiations. And that is what he said. And every day 30 or 40 people are dying. Even if we fight for 10 more years, the end will be at the table. So we have to negotiate it now. But the response is no. Tayyip Erdogan, I think, is making his last dance with the, as I said, with the old status quo that he has a coalition. And unfortunately, that coalition just wants to unite all the Turkishness. That is a polarization. And if you make people more Turkish nationalists, then you have the nationalist Kurds as well when they suffer. So we, the HDP, my party, is trying to stop that because this polarization has risks. You know, you might have interior war and unstabilized Turkey as well in your hand.